Hey there once again, fellow flight simmers and cockpit builders. Here I am again with a hopefully short video, and this is about a subject that I wasn't really planning to make a video about, but I think I have come across this a couple of times already, and right now I'm trying to help somebody, one of my viewers, sort a problem where they're working with their pretty complex system, and they can only see one input and one output in the plugin. So I'm going to go over some things that hopefully will help other people avoid this problem, because he's breaking his head over why, no matter what he does, he still can only see one input and one output. And I already kind of had some ideas of what the problem might be, but I'm going to go over some things here that'll hopefully clear it up for anybody in the future. Um, and I'm only going to talk about Windows here because I only use Windows. I do not use Linux right now, even though I have used it in the past, but I don't remember how the file system and everything works. And I definitely do not use any Apple devices. All right, so let's go over to my other screen here. And first of all, we're going to talk about um, the naming structure. So I'm not sure if many of you guys have used this before, but if you go to the view option right here, you can see that there's an option to hide or show file name extensions. So that's what allows you to show like what type of file it is, like if it's a JPEG, a text file, in this case a configuration file or config, and then the DAT files, the SimVimX also uses. So whenever you don't have that enabled, like if I take it off, and I don't know why I always have to do this twice. The first time it always closes the window, the little option bar, and then the second time it actually takes it off. So as you can see right now, none of them have any file extension names on them, right? They just show whatever the file name is. So this is where you can come across a problem if you do have it enabled like this. Oopsie, the first time it always closes it. The second time it always shows it. So now you can see I have config, DAT, and config on all my files. Oh, another thing that I wanted to go over is a lot of people have asked me how they do it so that they can, how do you say it, so that they can choose where they want to save the file. Because one of the reasons that I have seen this problem come across is because they have their browser set up to automatically save it in the downloads folder, and then when they try to put it in the SimVim folder and they rename it, that's when they come across this problem. So I'm going to go over in Chrome because that's what I use mostly. So you go to your settings over here, and then you go to the downloads tab here, and there's a little thing that says ask where to save each file before downloading. So you need to enable that. If you don't, then it'll automatically go to whatever folder you have set up here, which in my case is the downloads folder. But if I don't want it to do that, I need to change that. And then after you save a file, it'll always default to the last location where you save the file, but you can always navigate so that you can save it wherever you want to. And if we go back to the SimVim configurator here, let's just say that I wanted to open up my config file that I have here, and I open it, and then let's say I made some changes to it and I want to save it. So right now, remember, I disabled ask me what to do with each download. So if I put save config, and of course you have to go past this little dialog box here, it just saves it, right, automatically in the downloads folder. So now if I go over to the downloads folder, you can see it even gave me an unverified download blocked. So I actually have to go and put download unverified file. So now it downloaded it, but you can see that it put a data, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to open it. I meant to just go to the folder location. So you can see that it actually put a data parentheses 2 parentheses dot config, right? So this is where most people would have it if they don't have it to automatically do. So let's just say I wanted to copy this file and I wanted to take it to my plugins folder, which is in my explain resources plugins SimVimX folder, right? This is where we need to put it. So I have one there, but let's just say I wanted to paste it there, and there it is. So now I have a data.2 config, right? But if I wanted to rename it, So if I just rename it and take off the dash 2 or the parentheses 2, and then it wants to, of course it's going to tell you that there's another one already there, so I want to go ahead and override it. But now you see that it created a 3, so this becomes a big mess. So in reality, what you need to do is you need to get rid of the original one that's there if you do it this way. But here's what I wanted to show you that the problem is. Sometimes when you try to rename a file, like let's say I want to delete this one here, and then I go to the one that now became a 3, and I want to rename it. So right now that I have the file extensions off, or actually showing, then it's okay, because you see that it's just data.config, right? But let's say that that I had not renamed it yet. Let's just say that it was still a 2, data2.config. But if I don't have the file extensions showing, so now I don't have the file extension showing. But now if I go back and rename it, so let's just say I go back and rename it. Oops, that's not the right one. All right, so I just want to take off the 2, but then you add a .config to it. So let's say you did this, and this is exactly what's happening with the viewer that I'm trying to help sort out his problem. So right now, let's say I go to rename it like that. Okay, so you can see that it's called data.config, right? But it's not really called data.config, because now since you have the file name extensions hidden, there's actually another .config. So if you click on it to enable them, which I have to do twice, now you can see that it's actually called data.config.config. So now we go over to the simulator and we reload the configuration file, and you can see that it only has one input and one output, right? But if we go back over to my page over here and I open up that data.config.config, you can see that I have a lot of inputs and outputs, right? So that's what's going on. The plugin cannot read a data.config.config file. So what you need to do, if you have file name extensions shown, or hidden, basically, hold on, like that, you need to make sure, you see how this one doesn't have a config and this one doesn't have a config, and the SimVimX doesn't have the DAT. So what you need to do is you need to actually get rid of that config, right? So if we delete it and just call it data, then it's still a configuration file. You can see over here that the file type is a configuration file. But now if you go to view the file name extensions, which I have to do twice, now you can see that it's only data.config, and all of them have config or config and DAT, which is the right way. So now if we go back to the simulator now, since we renamed it, and we put reload configuration, now you can see that it shows I have 105 inputs and 39 outputs. So that's what's going on with that. So I'm sorry to my viewer who's been going through a heartache and a headache trying to figure out what's going on. How come he can only see one input and one output? But I just sent him this response the other day, last night actually, and I told him I think this is what's going on. So hopefully he'll just rename it, get rid of that .config in the name, and then everything will work out fine. So hopefully this video helps more than just him and avoids a lot of headaches in the future. All right, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.